Hello, this is Sandrine, Jewish American Priestess, and we're doing a reading today on the topic of strength and power. It's one of the 10 Sephirot, the divine emanations of God in the world, and we have 4 cards here from the tarot decks that represent strength, which is that concept of power. And that can be divine power or personal power in the world. We're going to take a look at each of these 4 cards, and then you get to choose one card and determine which one you like. We'll put the timestamps down below. So the first one is from the Wildwood Tarot, and it's the card number 8, the Stag. Card number 2 is from the Aquarian Tarot. It's card number 8, Strength. The third is from the Botticelli Gold Tarot deck. It's a more traditional strength-looking card with a lion. And the fourth card is from the Steampunk Tarot, and this character is called the Engineer. I'm also going to pull out a Nordic rune to go with each of these today. Maybe that will help guide you into your reading. And we'll do Hebrunes when we get into the reading. For the Wildwood Stag, we have Dagaz, which is about the breaking of the day. For the Aquarian Tarot, we have Hagalaz, which is about hailstorm and natural forces. For the Botticelli Tarot, we have Othala, which is about the homestead. And for the Steampunk Tarot, we have Ingwaz, which is about fertility and creation. Beautiful. Okay, so take a minute to determine which of these cards and which of these readings speaks to you. I'll put the timestamps down below, and I will see you in your reading. Okay, for those of you who chose card number 1, we have the Stag and Dagaz today. And I brought over our friend, the Golem, who I believe represents strength kind of in the Hebrew mythological canon. A strong man who, made of clay, doesn't have a lot of brains, but there he is. So in the Wildwood Tarot we have the Stag, and the Stag, you can see, has got the antlers and a big axe and a shield. It sort of looks like a shield drum with the strong world tree, oak tree on it. So it's representing the power and the strength of the elk in the forest. And we also have the Nordic rune Dagaz. And Dagaz is about the breaking of the day. It's about being able to see clearly forward and just having a splash of insight. So I'm not sure how that plays out for you, but we'll find out more when we get into our Hebrunes as well. So how is strength showing up for you right now in your life? We're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes today. And the first one we have is the letter Pe. Second, we have the letter Kaf. And thirdly, we have the letter Tav. Okay, I'll bring Golem a little closer here. So at the top of our reading, the way I read these is the top letter is the letter that represents what is currently the situation in our reading. So with the letter Pe, this is interesting because we have the Stag card, which is the number 8. The Strength card is typically the number 8 in tarot. And the letter Pe is the number 80. So you have this ultimate manifestation of 8. Eight is a number that represents the infinite because it has that connotation of being one more than the number of days of creation. So then we move into the infinite after those creative days. And 10 times 8 is this ultimate manifestation of that infinite. Interestingly, the pei also is the word that means mouth, and it represents the mouth of the divine speaking creation into existence. So it is about communication, it's about creation, it's about the infinite, all together in one letter here. It represents the binary transformation of grace and ugliness. So on the one hand, we have ultimate beauty, and on the other hand, we have this ultimate ugliness. So where on that continuum are you standing right now with your strength? Are you able to speak into existence that which you would like to see in the world, or are you just criticizing that which you do not like? There's that chime that reminds us that the divine is here. So that's an important concept, it sounds like, for you. Where are we? Are we just complaining that we don't like the way things are, or are we actually manifesting by imagining how we would like to see it in the world? It's about that divine creation through speech and this ultimate manifestation of the infinite. You can see it looks a little bit like a spiral. It spirals around and in, and so that speaks to time as well. The word in Hebrew for time is pa'am. So there's this concept of time that is going infinitely out and infinitely in a way like the Big Bang continues to expand outward. And as we think about ourselves as a microcosm of the universe, expanding infinitely inward. So that idea of the infinite right there in our situation. And I think in this case, because we're speaking about strength, infinite power, that we have the infinite power to draw on from the divine. And we have the infinite power within ourselves to imagine how things could be. So that is our current situation in this Stag strength reading. The position of the second letter is that which is challenging, or there's a fear involved with it. And interestingly, you have the letter Kaf, which is the first letter of the word koach, which means power. So there's maybe some concern or fear around power. It is the palm of a hand or the sole of a foot. So it speaks to power, and it can also speak to oppression. So maybe there's been some kind of oppression in your life. Maybe you've been being oppressed by someone, or you've been wielding your power as well over someone else. So there's a challenge there. It is the binary transformation of wealth and poverty. So perhaps there's been some difficulty with finances or wealth in your world, where you have felt impoverished and felt like you do not have the power to do the things you need to do in your life. And it is the letter that speaks to giving and receiving. So there's something about being able to receive what it is you need to receive. If you are in need, to ask for help. And also, if you are in abundance, be sure to give appropriately to those who are needy around you. So there's this exchange that's going on between giving and receiving, wealth and poverty, power and oppression. And it sounds like there's a challenge here that perhaps either you're being oppressed or you're using your power inappropriately. So that's the fear or the challenge in our situation. And our final letter is the letter Tav. And the letter Tav that's in the position of our outcome of how things will turn out given the current circumstances. We have this strength, we have this power, and it's causing us concern. There's some kind of concern going on here. And our outcome is the letter Tav, which is the final letter of the Hebrew alphabet. is the final word of the letter Emet, which is written on the golem, which means truth. So something is going to come about which will reveal the truth. I say that because we have Dagaz here, which is about revealing what is hidden, about that bright, shining insight. So something is going to come to completion, and something is going to come, it's going to be revealed. Some truth is going to be revealed here. The Tav is that final letter. It's a stamp or a seal on the situation. It represents the concept of judgment, and you can see it looks a little bit like a dalet and a nun, which spells deen, and deen is that word that means judgment. Tav corresponds to that idea of judgment, some finality. It can speak to death as well, or an ending of a situation. And it does correspond to the moon in the sky. It rules over the moon in the sky. So there's some changes going on. There's a new moon coming right up in a minute here. And so something maybe in the transformation of the new moon, there will be a truth that is being revealed, and you will come into your power, is what I'm getting from this right now as I listen in. This finality is speaking to whatever it is that's the challenge with the power here. If you're able to speak into existence that which you'd like to see in the world, if you're able to imagine how you would like it to be, rather than complaining about how you don't like it to be, then this breakthrough will occur, and the strength and power that you've been waiting for will come into existence. The truth will be revealed for you. So for those of you who chose the Wildwood Tarot Stag today and the Dagaz Nordic rune, this reading seems to be saying, speak into existence what you'd like to see in the world. Focus on the infinite. Focus on the long-term plan. If you're having concerns with power or oppression or exchange, know that in the new moon, you will have the ability to see the completion of this situation, and truth will be revealed, hopefully for the positive and the power of your own situation. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time. Shavua Tov. Hello, card number 2. For those of you who chose the Aquarian Tarot, this is your reading. And I brought out the Golem. He is the little man of clay that represents strength and power within Judaism. He is the man that was made to just be strong and follow instructions. And so I thought I'd bring him into our reading today to help us determine what's going on. And we have the Aquarian Tarot number 8. It is the Strength card, and you can see it's a very powerful warrior. He has a shield, like an epaulet shield on his shoulder, as well as a giant sword and plumes on his hat. This is his, I guess it's a dog. It's usually a lion in the Strength card, but here we have a dog looking quite beautiful and colorful. And he's looking very powerful today and serene. I like that. So the number 8 is the Strength card in tarot, and I love that the number 8 speaks to infinity as well, because it's got that infinity loop look to it. And we have the Nordic rune of Hagalaz, and Hagalaz is about the hailstorm. It's about natural forces, and they can be pretty powerful and destructive, possibly, but there's definitely power here. There's definitely strength and power in the rune of Hagalaz. So that's, you've got double power here. You've got the Strength card, of course, for Gevura, and we've got Hagalaz as well. So a lot of power going on, and we're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes today to see what else is up for you. At the top we have the letter Kuf. In the center we have the letter Tzadi. And at the bottom we have the letter Kaf. Interesting. So the way I read these is at the top is the letter that corresponds to our current situation. In the center is the letter that is the challenge or the fear, and at the bottom is the outcome given the current circumstances. So at the top we have the letter Kuf. And Kuf is the number 100. So it's this ultimate manifestation of 10, which is the Yud, first letter of the name of the divine. So the Yud, which also represents Yad, so hand. There's a lot of power and strength there. This is 10 times 10. It is the letter that begins the word Kadosh. So it's about sacredness and holiness. And it's also the first letter of the word Kof, which means monkey. So there's some kind of animal nature here, some kind of animal power. It can be silliness, it can be monkey business. You can see it's got a little bit of a tail there. But it also is just this animal power, I think. When I think about the strength card, it usually has a lion in it. So there's some kind of power of nature here, some kind of animal power, as well as that holiness and sacredness. It is associated with being designated specifically for service to divinity. As a spiritual warrior, you may be designating your power toward serving divinity. The number 100 speaks to 10 times 10, 10 commandments, which, are restrictions. Sometimes Gevura or power can be seen as a constriction or some kind of limitation, as well as power. And the 10 Sephirot, which are the divine emanations that we're speaking to. So 10 times 10 here, the 10 commandments times the 10 Sephirot equals that 100, which is sacredness. It is, in my understanding of the Hebrunes as they correspond to the tarot, I see it as corresponding to the magician card. So it's because it's about resourcefulness and will and intention toward something very powerful and spiritual. But the magician is the one who has all the resources at hand, and so has all the power available to them. So it's a very strong beginning with Kuf, speaking to sacredness, holiness, that 10 times 10, the 10 commandments, the 10 Sephirot, the designation for service to the divinity. Kuf is speaking to power in the spiritual realm, that holiness, that sacredness. And that's where we are right now. In the center, we have the letter Tzadi. And Tzadi is the letter that begins the word Tzadik, which is a righteous person or a saint, and the word Tzedek, which means justice. So because this is in the central position, which speaks to fears or challenges, there may be some challenge with justice right now. Perhaps there has been some injustice that's happened in your life. And so there's a struggle there, or there's a fear that justice will not be served. Tzadi speaks to also the foundation of thought. So maybe there's just been a lot of overthinking going on. And some say that it is like a bent nun carrying a yud on its back. So there's something about a little bit of humility, and yet there is divinity there backing you up. So a tzaddik might be somebody who is humble and has that divine protection. And maybe there's been some challenges around that, challenges either around being humble or challenges around feeling that divine protection that is there for us, but it's sometimes challenging to feel that. So in my understanding of how the Hebrunes correspond to the tarot, I see Tzadi as corresponding to the justice card. So what I'm getting the sense here is that there's been some sort of injustice or a fear that justice will not be served in your situation. So even though you have this holiness, this sacredness as your mission, there's some concern about whether justice is being served. That brings us to our final letter, which is the letter Kaf. And the letter Kaf is the letter that is all about power. So interestingly, we had this in the first reading as well. Kaf is the letter that begins the word koach, which means power in Hebrew. So perfect for this reading about Gevura. We have this idea of the palm of a hand, or the sole of a foot, and it is either serving, giving, or receiving as is appropriate. So there's an exchange here, a giving and receiving. There is this idea of power here, and it can be about oppression, but ideally it's about stepping into power, having strength. And since we've got this strength card here that's looking so powerful, and also Hagalaz, which is about power as well, I think that it's saying in the end, you will come into your power, that you will have the ability to grab that with your hand, to reach out and take the power that is necessary, because you have spiritual warriorship going on here. You have the sacredness as the calling that's starting out. And even if you are concerned about justice, if you're concerned about injustice or things not coming through, maybe you're going through a Hagalaz moment where there's been a little bit of destruction or a little bit of chaos, we can know that in the end we're going to come into power in the final analysis. And I love that for you, because we do have this knowledge that when we are humble, the divine is with us, that when we are designating ourselves for service appropriately and really harnessing that animal nature, it will bring us through to the power that we need to harness in order to get the strength in our situation. And I think it's great reading for you, and I hope that you find it useful. And if you do, please like and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you here next time. Shavua Tov. Hello, card number 3. This is your reading. We have, I wanted to let you know we brought out the Golem. He is what I see as the representative of strength in the Hebrew mytho canon. He's a man of clay that was built for strength and power and protection. So I thought I'd bring him out for our readings here today. We have the card of strength from the Golden Botticelli deck, and it is, it's got a picture of a woman who is holding closed the lion's mouth, and that's a pretty traditional take on the strength card. She has interestingly a lily above her head that she is using to tame the lion here. So she is the strength. The lion has its strength as well, but she is the one who represents strength in this situation. There's that chime that reminds us that the divine is here for us today. So we have strength in our relatively traditional format with the closing of the lion's mouth. And it is, in this particular deck, it's the number 11 instead of the number 8. Traditionally, it's the number 8. The number 11 is interesting because it is one of those magical numbers with the two ones. And so I'm not sure why Botticelli deck has a different numbering system, but there it is. And we have the Nordic rune Othala here. Othala is about home and homestead and feeling comfortable in your space. So however that resonates for you, you've got strength and power in your own home, it feels like, here with the lion and the teaming with the lily. And we're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes to get some further clarity for our situation on strength right now. Our top letter is the letter Tzadi. Our central letter is the letter Pei. And our final letter is the letter Nun. Interesting. Okay. So how I read these is at the top is our current situation, and the center is our challenge, and at the bottom is the outcome of the reading. So at the top we have the letter Tzadi, and Tzadi is the letter that speaks to justice. It is the first letter of the word tzedek, which means justice, and it corresponds in my reading of it to the justice card in tarot. It also is the letter that begins the word tzaddik, which means saint or righteous person. And tzadi it's all about being righteous and being just. And so in your situation, there's been this desire for justice. Maybe you're a justice worker. Maybe you're striving for justice in your personal life. Tzadi is said to be the letter Nun with the Yud on its back. You can see that it looks like a little bit like a Nun here and the Yud up on the left, or up on the right. So there's something about humility that invites justice. And when one is humble and has the divine at their back, they come through and become a tzaddik. It's the number 90 in Gematria. And so 90 is 10 times 9, of course. And 9 is the letter Tet, which is about a womb. It's about gestation. So it's this ultimate manifestation of gestation. And Tet also begins the word Tov. So again, an ultimate manifestation of goodness, gestation. So something is up right now about justice or about righteousness or attempting to be a righteous person in the world, using your strength maybe to tame the lion, using your strength to bring justice into the world, and feeling very much at home in your body, feeling very much at home in your situation. And our challenge in our reading today is the letter Pei. And the letter Pei is the infinite. It's the number 80, which is 10 times 8. 8 being a number that looks like an infinity symbol and is also one more than 7. 7 being the number of days of creation. So there's this ultimate manifestation of the infinite that's a little bit frightening. We have this spiral that goes infinitely in and infinitely out into the universe. And Pei is also a mouth. It's about communication and speaking things into existence. It's the mouth of the divine speaking creation into existence. So perhaps our struggle here right now is speaking, being able to speak clearly in order to create what it is we need to see in the world. Maybe we're having challenges around speaking and blessing rather than cursing. I say that because Pei is that binary transformation between grace and ugliness. So in order to see what we'd like to see in the world, it is best to speak to this desire for how we'd like it to be rather than complaining about how we don't like it to be. And maybe some challenges around the idea of the infinite, the idea that things are going on and on for a very, very long period of time, and we'd like it to come to a conclusion at some point. I see the Pei as corresponding to the tarot card, the Hierophant. So maybe there's some challenges around speaking the words of divinity into the world, that maybe you are somebody who's in a position who is a mouthpiece for the divine, that you are a tzaddik, that you are somebody who's supposed to be speaking the words of divinity into the world, and there's some challenge around that. Maybe you're having a hard time finding the words you need to find right now. And if that's the case, you can move back up to tzadi and know that justice is happening here, that the divine is at your back. Because in our final letter, we have the letter Nun, and Nun is the letter that speaks to humility. It is somebody who is sort of bent over and has their head bowed. Not humiliation, but appropriate humility. Maybe bowing before some great power that is greater than ourselves. And humility is an important factor in justice. You can see that in the letter Tzadi, that we have this bent over Nun with the Yud at its back. So if we're going to come into this place of humility, we need to relinquish our power to the divine where it belongs. Taking power for ourselves is not going to serve us in the long run, and it is important to maybe sit in meditation around that. I see the Nun as corresponding to the Hermit card in tarot. So that person who spends time alone to hear the voice of the divine, so that they can appropriately understand and communicate what needs to be communicated in the world. The Nun is about loyalty and faithfulness. And it's also the letter that begins the word Nes, which means miracle. So maybe there's some miracle coming, maybe a miracle of humility, in fact, that something going on in our homes that is requiring a certain amount of gentle power and being able to speak appropriately, having challenges with speaking maybe, but it will bring us to this humility that brings also the miracle with it. Nun is also the foundation of locomotion. So there is forward movement, but it starts out slowly, like a locomotive. It goes, just a chug, chug, a chug, and then eventually picks up speed and gets to where it needs to go. But there is that beginning. There's a beginning with humility, the foundation of locomotion, and that ongoing, if there's been some fear around the infinite, this nun is saying that there is the ability to move forward slowly and gradually and eventually pick up speed and get to the place where you're clicking along like a locomotive. So for those of you who chose card number 3, we have this idea of justice or righteousness, that we've come through a period of time where we're having challenges with communication perhaps, or manifestation with being able to bless what we are loving in our lives rather than cursing what we don't like in our lives, being able to imagine and speak into existence that which we'd like to see in the world rather than saying, oh, I don't like this. You need to come to humility. And when you come to humility, there will be that outcome of power, gentle power, it looks like, with the lily, to tame whatever struggles are going on in the home right now. So for those of you who chose card 3, this has been your reading. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time. Hello, card number 4. So we've brought out our friend the Golem, who I see as the Hebrew mythological character representing strength. He's the man of clay who provides protection and strength, but isn't much of a thinker. Anyway, Golem is here to help us out with our reading today about Gevurah. And we have the engineer from the Steampunk Tarot, and she represents the card number 8. And interestingly, in the Steampunk Tarot, it looks like she's the one who designs and maintains this robot who seems to be very powerful. So instead of having a lion in the card like the traditional Rider-Waite Tarot, we have this robot that seems to be all powerful, and the engineer is the one who creates, maintains, and keeps him under control. And I think that's fascinating with regards to the Golem, because it looks very much like the Golem, and in fact, I'm guessing is like the Golem in its power and maybe not being able to think for itself. Additionally, we have the Nordic rune of Ingwaz, and Ingwaz is the letter that in Nordic mythology speaks to Ing or Frey. Frey is the fertility goddess or fertility god, and so it's about creation and gestation and internal growth and new life. So as a creator, someone who's making life out of the mud, and this is like the earth god, it's so perfect for this reading today. So we've got Ingwaz and I'm going to put that over there, and the engineer who's making all things, bringing things into being. And we're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes to talk about power and strength in your life today. At the top we have the letter Gimel. In the center we have the letter Zayin. And at the bottom we have the Ein Sof. Okay, and the way I read these is we have at the top our current situation, in the center the challenges or fears, and at the bottom the outcome given the current circumstances. And this is fascinating because we have, in the other 3 readings, we had the letter Kaf, which means Koach, power, and in this one we have Zayin, but we'll get to that. So we'll start with the Gimel. The Gimel is the letter that means camel or foot. It's about forward progress, forward movement. So about moving on ahead. And that's where we are right now. This reading is saying that you are right now trying to move forward. Maybe you're riding on a vehicle, maybe you're riding a camel, or you're walking ahead. It looks a little bit like a foot. Stepping out into whatever it is you need to step forward, stepping forward in your power, perhaps. And it is the binary transformation of peace and evil. So the letter Gimel is the first letter of the word Gan, which means garden. So Garden of Eden is what comes up for me when I hear that. Gimel speaks to peace and evil, because there's that tree in the garden that is the knowledge of the root of good and evil. So we know that. We know what's right. We know what's wrong. And we are running toward justice with that knowledge. That's what the Gimel speaks to. It's got this forward movement piece, but it's also the letter that rules over the planet Jupiter in the sky. Jupiter in Hebrew is named Tzedek, which means justice. So we've got this forward movement toward justice with the knowledge of peace and evil, good and evil, and not just good and evil, peace, not just peace and evil, but shalom, which is wholeness and wickedness, wholeness and brokenness. We have this knowledge of wholeness and brokenness. And out of that wholeness and brokenness, we are able to step forward into a path of justice and righteousness. It is the letter that rules over the day Sunday in the week, which is in my world right now, today. So it is the current moment. It's what we're talking about right now for you, whenever you're watching this, but right now. And I see it as corresponding to the Chariot card in Tarot. So that forward momentum, that vehicle that propels you forward toward justice. And it is the number 3. So there's something about stability and balance and harmony that goes with the number 3 as well. And that's where we are right now. What the concern is the letter Zion. And Zayin is that letter which means a sword or a scepter. So it's about power, it's about sovereignty, and it's that idea of personal sovereignty. And so maybe we're having some challenges around personal sovereignty. Maybe we're not feeling complete. Maybe we're not feeling like we have the power that we need. It is the number 7 in Gematria. And so it speaks to the finality of the creation. It's the end of creation. So maybe something's coming to an end, and it's a challenge right now that you need to walk forward having finished something. And that is, there's a fear there. There's a concern or just maybe a little bit of a hesitation about walking forward now that things have come to a completion. It is also the letter that corresponds to the tribe of Zebulun, who is the one who is affiliated with business. So maybe there's something in business. There's some kind of completion in business. Maybe you're changing something in your work life. Maybe you're walking away from a job even, and that's frightening. But it is this number 7. It is this magic. There's a certain magic that's affiliated with 7, the lucky number 7. And I affiliate it with the tarot card of the Emperor. So there's power there. There's absolute power and sovereignty. So whatever it is that you're fearing right now, know that you're supposed to be walking forward. And if you're having a concern or trouble with your own sovereignty, it's still okay to step forward into that. And I say that in large part because we've got the Ingwaz here, which is to say plant a seed. Plant the seed and let it grow. There's something about fertility and growth here. And we have the blank, which is the Ein Sof, that fertile ground in which we are planting things. It is the letter that isn't a letter. It's the primordial material out of which all things are created. So we have this earth, this matter into which we can plant something. We can plant this seed and know that things will grow, because it is the stuff out of which everything is made. This infinite possibility here in the future. This is the position of what is coming given the current circumstances. So as you walk forward toward justice, as you decide to plant your seed, maybe build your robot, build your golem so that you will have the strength and power that you need. You may have some fear and you may have some concerns about whatever's coming into completion, whatever sort of power that you have. Maybe you're not feeling, again, your own sovereignty, but you can trust that because we have the Ein Sof here. The Ein Sof is that infinite presence. It is that time before creation, but it's the fertile ground into which we plant our seeds so that they come bursting forth and step forward into justice. It is that time before time. It is that unlimited potential. So we have this coming for us, this boundlessness, this timelessness, this time of no end. You've had a completion here, and now you can step into timelessness and the infinite. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful reading. So for those of you who chose the Engineer as your strength card today, know that you've got power and you don't need to fear it. That you can step forward into justice because the infinite is waiting for you with that seed you're planting. So for those of you who chose the Engineer, I hope you enjoyed your reading. If you did, please like and subscribe to this channel, and I will look forward to seeing you here next time. Shavua Tov.